After her heartbreaking divorce, she becomes a billionaire. Her ex regrets it too late. Please subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Layla Adeyemi wiped a bead of sweat from her brow as steam from the coconut rice simmering on the stove fogged her glasses. The apartment's tiny kitchen smelled like fried plantain, roasted chicken, and a hint of vanilla from the sponge cake cooling beside the window. On the breakfast bar she had arranged 2 crystal wineglasses, a single white rose in a narrow vase, and the silver wristwatch she had saved 3 months to buy, Desmond's anniversary gift. 8:30 p.m. Her eyes flicked to the clock again. Desmond's last text had come hours earlier, running late, final tweaks to the pitch deck. It had ended with no heart emoji, no kiss, just a period. She told herself not to read into it, but the period felt heavier than the entire sentence. To pass the growing silence she scrolled through old photos on her phone, 2 smiling 20-somethings at Landmark Beach, sand between their toes, promises on their lips. Back then Desmond had doubled down on dreams. One day we will build a company so big that our parents will call us for loans. She remembered how she laughed and how sincere he sounded. She believed him enough to invest her savings in his fledgling fintech app, DevPay. Believing, she reminded herself, had never felt like gambling, until now. 9:15. The food would soon cool. She set the table anyway, lighting the vanilla-scented candle they bought in Cape Town on their first anniversary. A small wave of dread slushed inside her. The candle's wick trembled like her heartbeat. 9:40. Keys rattled in the lock. She rushed to the door, plastering on a smile, smoothing her Ankara print dress. Desmond stepped inside, blazer hanging carelessly over one shoulder, cologne mixing with a feminine perfume she did not own. Happy anniversary. Her voice sounded too bright, even to her. He barely glanced at the table. Layla, I am exhausted. The board meeting was brutal. She reached for his laptop bag. Dinner is ready. 20 minutes is all. Can we do this tomorrow? He cut in, loosening his tie. I need a shower and bed. The candle flickered. Tomorrow is a weekday. You will be preparing for another pitch. Desmond exhaled. Fine. 15 minutes. He walked toward the bedroom, leaving a waft of unfamiliar perfume trailing behind. Layla's smile cracked. She caught a faint lipstick mark at the collar's edge, deep burgundy, not her shade. Through the half-closed bedroom door she heard drawers slide. A hotel receipt fluttered to the floor when Desmond tossed his trousers over a chair. Layla knelt, picked it up, and her stomach knotted. A suite at the Eco-Atlantic Towers, yesterday night, 2 guests, champagne upgrade. Her first reaction was disbelief, hot and hollow. She tried to convince herself it was a client meeting, a misunderstanding. But when Desmond emerged, damp hair slicked back, he smelled of a different body wash, one hotel supply. His wedding ring sat crooked on his finger, as if his skin resisted its presence. They sat at the table. Desmond ate quickly, eyes on his phone. Messages flashed, screen angled away. Layla's appetite evaporated, but she forced bites past the lump in her throat. Conversation came stilted, then stopped altogether. After dessert she handed him the gift box. He opened it, glanced at the watch, nodded. Thanks. Elegant. No hug. He placed it aside like a brochure. She gathered plates in silence while he scrolled through notifications, smiling at something. Her hands trembled so badly a fork clattered to the floor. He did not notice. In that metallic chime Layla heard the shatter of trust. That night, unable to sleep, she lay in darkness counting the seconds between his even breaths. At 2 a.m. she slid out of bed, crept to the laundry basket, and found his shirt from yesterday. The same perfume. Her nose burned. Under the dim bathroom light she spotted burgundy lipstick on the cuff, a tiny crescent moon mocking her. She clutched the fabric, heart hammering, memories flooding. The night she coded modules for DevPay after her own job, the weekends she skipped rest to prepare pitch decks for him, the loan she took so he could meet payroll. All because she believed in them. The silence roared louder than any argument. She folded the shirt, placed it back, and sat on the cold tile floor until dawn painted the blinds pale gray. When Desmond stirred awake she climbed into bed pretending to sleep. He kissed her forehead absently before heading to the shower. The water rushed like a waterfall drowning out her muffled sob. In the mirror she caught her reflection, eyes puffy, shoulders slumped. She straightened, wiped tears, and whispered, I am not broken. Not yet. The divorce announcement arrived like an eviction notice for her heart. 2 days after the cold anniversary Desmond stood by the living room window, city lights reflecting on his phone screen, and cleared his throat. Layla, we need to talk. She expected it, yet the word still pierced. They sat opposite each other, coffee table between them like a negotiation bench. "I think we have grown apart," he began, voice rehearsed. He talked about needing space, wanting new experiences, how the spark had died. He blamed her anxiety, her constant checking up. She listened, hands folded to hide the shaking. Not once did he mention the perfume or hotel. Not once did he apologize. "I am filing next week," he finished. "No kids, so it should be quick. You can stay here until you sort things." She stared at the wall she had painted, the couch she had chosen. Her name was not on the lease, his parents paid the deposit while she was still in graduate school. The legal imbalance now felt monumental. "I invested my savings in DevPay," she managed, throat dry. "What happens to that?" "We can discuss a buyout," he said, glancing at a text that made him smile. "My lawyer will draft something fair." Fair. The word tasted bitter. She thought of the nights she debugged code at 3 a.m. while he slept. Buyout sounded like hush money. 48 hours later Instagram detonated with his new life. Desmond and Kira on a yacht, champagne glasses clinking, caption. "Bliss starts when you stop surviving and start living." Kira was verified, 500,000 followers, beauty brand ambassador. Comments erupted with fire emojis and power couple hashtags. Layla threw her phone across Malik's couch, the screen dimming as it landed on a cushion. Malik emerged from the kitchenette carrying 2 mugs of hibiscus tea. "Social media poison," he said, handing her a mug. "Stop drinking it." She forced a laugh. "That yacht is bigger than our apartment." "Better to be free in a showbox than trapped in a palace," Malik quipped, sitting beside her. He had always been the friend who distilled pain into one-liners. Malik's studio was cluttered with canvases and coding textbooks. An artist and a developer, he freelanced to fund his mural projects in local schools. He insisted Layla crash there until she found a place. One evening, while she updated her resume, Malik paused his sketch and asked, "Have you considered therapy?" Layla stared at the blinking cursor. "I cannot even afford my half of the legal fees." "I will cover it," he said without hesitation. "You are already hosting me." "I am hosting a future tech legend," he corrected. "Investment." Despite the humor, his steady belief warmed her. Yet at night waves of grief rolled in. She mourned the marriage, the dream, the betrayal. She scrolled DevPay's press releases, each headline reminding her of her unpaid labor. Then the letter arrived. A crisp white envelope bearing a Swiss stamp sat in Malik's mailbox. Layla slit it open with a paintbrush handle. Inside, ornate letterhead read, "By the directives of the late Dr. Frederick Adeyemi, you, Ms. Layla O. Adeyemi, are the sole beneficiary of his estate. Kindly contact our offices to arrange immediate transfer of assets." Malik's eyes widened. "Is this a prank?" Layla's brain stuttered. Dr. Frederick Adeyemi, her godfather, had vanished from her life when she was 16, diving into research labs across Europe. They exchanged rare emails. She remembered his eccentric mind, his vow to build tech that glows in the dark places of the world. Hands trembling, she dialed the Swiss number. A polished voice confirmed his passing and detailed the inheritance, $6.8 billion in equity, real estate, patents, and full ownership of Helion Tech, Switzerland's most secretive quantum cloud enterprise. A private jet would collect her within 72 hours. Layla dropped the phone. Malik caught her before she hit the floor. When she found her voice she whispered, "Malik, my world just flipped again." "Then let us land on your feet this time," he replied, squeezing her hand. Geneva glittered below as the jet descended. Snow-capped Alps framed the horizon like silver guardians. Layla pressed her forehead to the oval window, amazed that bruised hearts could fly first class. During the flight she had read Dr. Adeyemi's final letter. "My dearest goddaughter. Genius is a gift, but purpose is a calling. I leave you Helion Tech because you possess both. You will face wolves in tailored suits, but remember, tech is only as powerful as the woman steering its course. Build bridges, not thrones. And dance on the ruins of doubt." Tears blurred the ink. She traced his signature, promising silently to honor him. At the tarmac a convoy of sleek black cars awaited. The driver introduced himself as Marcel, head of security. "Welcome home, Madame Adeyemi." Home. The word echoed strangely. The Helion Tech headquarters overlooked Lake Geneva, a glass fortress gleaming in winter sunlight. Inside, a marble lobby buzzed with executives. Cameras flashed as Layla stepped through. She kept her posture straight, Malik's confidence echoing in her ears, "Land on your feet." Boardroom doors open to 12 directors, grey suits, steely gazes. First agenda item, confirmation of new CEO. Chairman Volker smoothed his tie. With deepest respect, we question whether personal relation equals competence. Helion Tech manages quantum encryption for governments. Layla inhaled. Dr. Adeyemi trained me long distance. I wrote portions of Helion's predictive algorithm during university, under a pseudonym, Eloy Check Repository H07. A director typed rapidly, eyes widening. The algorithm's signature appeared. Murmurs rippled around the table. I also built DevPay's blockchain modules, she continued. I have bled code. But skill alone is nothing without vision. Helion Tech will democratize quantum cloud for underfunded regions, starting with Africa. We will subsidize server clusters for education and healthcare startups that currently cannot afford enterprise-grade security. The room stilled. Her pulse thundered, but she held eye contact, daring anyone to deny her. One by one, green lights flickered on the voting panel. Unanimous. Volker rose, offering his seat. Welcome, Chief Executive Officer Adeyemi. Relief washed over her like warm rain. She thanked them, then outlined Phase 1, Project Lumen, affordable quantum-encrypted cloud kits shipped to community hubs in Lagos, Nairobi, Accra. She earmarked $100 million for a female coders fund, providing scholarships and seed grants. At dusk she stood on the balcony, wind whipping her braids. The lake mirrored pink clouds. She should have felt victorious, yet an emptiness lingered, a Desmond-shaped echo. She allowed herself 5 minutes to mourn, setting a timer on her phone. When it beeped she exhaled and walked back inside. That night she video-called Malik, who sprawled on his sofa surrounded by paint tubes. Queen CEO, he cheered, lifting a mug of cheap wine. I survived day 1, she said, smiling. But tomorrow the real war begins. Remember, wolves fear lionesses, he replied. Before hanging up he added, Layla, everything Desmond took for granted someone else will cherish. She slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The next morning global news blasted. Mysterious heiress takes over Helion Tech, promises tech revolution in Africa. Stock analysts debated, social media dubbed her quantum queen. She scrolled reactions on the treadmill, heart steady. Meanwhile, across Lagos, Desmond watched the same headline in a cluttered co-working space. DevPay had hemorrhaged funds after a security breach. Investors threatened lawsuits. Kira, filming content in Dubai, no longer answered his calls. Seeing Layla commanding a boardroom froze him mid-sip of burnt coffee. He drafted an email, Hey Layla, catching up, so proud of you. Maybe we can grab dinner when you are back? Lots to discuss regarding DevPay opportunities. He hovered over send, hesitated, then pressed enter. Layla's assistant filtered her inbox. When she saw the sender her finger twitched toward delete. She paused, thought of closure, then clicked move to trash. No reply was the clearest answer. Back in Geneva Layla rehearsed speeches for Project Lumen's launch. She recruited data scientists from Kenya, blockchain gurus from South Africa, and partnered with University of Lagos for scholarship rollouts. Each success stitched a new layer over her scars. Yet in quiet moments she wondered what forgiveness looked like. Dr. Adeyemi's letter had urged building bridges. But some bridges, she realized, led only back to fires. On a Sunday morning she visited St. Pierre Cathedral, lighting a candle for her late mentor. Sunbeams streamed through stained glass, painting her in ruby and sapphire hues. A sense of peace settled, as if Frederick's soul nodded approval. Walking back through cobblestone streets she stopped at a jazz cafe. A saxophonist played A Night in Tunisia, notes swirling like saffron. Layla closed her eyes. In that melody she did not hear heartbreak or doubt. She heard forward motion. When she returned to headquarters she drafted a personal manifesto. I will rise, not to silence my past but to amplify futures, mine and countless others. She signed it, then printed a copy for her office wall. And somewhere in Lagos, a man who once dismissed her practiced apologies in a mirror smudged with regret, unaware that her story had already outgrown him. The limousine glided through the alpine morning as mist unrolled across Lake Geneva like pale silk. Inside, Layla rehearsed the numbers once more, whispering to herself the valuation metrics of Helion Tech, the projected market share of quantum encryption, the philanthropic conversions she intended. She felt like a performer stepping onto a stage whose audience had been waiting centuries. Marcel, the security chief, cleared his throat from the front seat. Madam Adeyemi, the press has set up outside headquarters. We can use the staff entrance if you prefer. Layla glanced at the mirrored glass that separated them. No. I will meet them at the front. Hiding is not a leadership strategy. Marcel's eyes softened in the rearview mirror. As you wish. When the car rolled to a stop, camera shutters broke the dawn hush. Journalists jostled, microphones pointed like arrows. Layla stepped out in a tailored charcoal pantsuit, one sleeve embroidered with slim lines of Ankara fabric as a quiet homage to Lagos. The cold nipped her cheeks, but fire coursed in her veins. A reporter shouted, "Madam Adeyemi, critics say you lack executive experience. How will you steer a company valued at nearly 70 billion? She met his gaze. By surrounding myself with experts, listening more than speaking, and remembering that innovation dies in echo chambers. Another asked, first priority as CEO? Project Lumen, bridging quantum security with underserved communities. Technology should be a key, not a gated castle. Flashbulbs bathed her in white light. She answered a few more questions, then entered the glass fortress feeling the weight of inherited legacy and self-crafted destiny intertwining. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt endless. She breathed deeply, recalling Malik's late-night pep talk. Your mind is the algorithm, the rest is syntax. Doors opened to reveal an inner sanctum of polished stone and living walls of greenery. Her temporary office, Dr. Adeyemi's former suite, smelled faintly of cedar and citrus. A massive desk faced an entire wall of glass that swallowed the lake and the distant peaks. Beneath the view, the city looked like circuitry etched in stone and water. After a quick hot chocolate delivered by the timid junior aide, Layla walked into the strategy war room where 12 department heads waited. Data science, quantum research, legal, finance, global partnerships, all sat in expectant silence. Each held a printed dossier of her background that she had sent in advance, credentials, publications, DevPay code contributions, her manifesto. She opened the session without slides, without notes. I will not waste our first hour together on pleasantries, she said, voice even. Our founder was a man of impossible visions. He hired all of you because you make the impossible ordinary. I intend to keep that tradition. But impossible must now include access. We are in an industry whose benefits are felt by the few and funded by the many. That ends today. She walked the length of the table slowly, meeting every pair of eyes. I have 3 pillars. 1. Democratize quantum cloud by cutting entry costs for registered social impact startups by 80%. 2. Launch the Female Coders Fund with a $100 million seed, matching grants to grassroots hubs in Africa, South Asia, and South America. 3. Carbon negative by 2030. The head of finance, a silver-haired German named Petra, frowned. Cutting entry costs threatens revenue projections. Layla nodded. Correction. It challenges our current pricing model. Quantum cloud is a frontier. Early adoption in emerging markets widens the funnel. You will build revenue on volume and brand equity instead of exclusivity. The math works out in the 5-year horizon. Petra opened her mouth, then closed it, thinking. The legal chief, Dr. Elodie Moine, pushed her glasses up her nose. Carbon negative within 5 years requires supply chain reinvention, vendor audits, and likely a retooling of our Zurich data center cooling systems. That is capital heavy. Layla clasped her hands. Our energy footprint is a moral ledger. We pay the debt now or our children pay later. Innovation that ignores the planet is vandalism. Silence. Then the head of research, a Ghanaian quantum physicist named Kwame Mensah, spoke in a deep baritone. I joined Helion because Frederick Adeyemi believed breakthroughs must touch villages, not just vaults. Your plan sounds like him resurrected. A few executives nodded. Layla exhaled quietly. Resistance existed, but momentum stirred. She spent the next 3 hours listening more than speaking, probing for concerns, assigning task forces, sketching timelines. By noon, a provisional roadmap lay pinned to the digital board. She ended the meeting with a single instruction: do not ask who will let us. Ask who can stop us. In the afternoon she toured the Geneva campus laboratories. Superconducting qubit chambers hummed behind glass, bathed in blue light. A senior researcher explained error correction protocols while she asked pointed questions. The team watched her annotate equations on the spot, realizing she spoke their language. Afterward, in a quiet corridor lined with portraits of Nobel laureates, she paused before a photograph of Frederick Adeyemi accepting an award 2 decades earlier. He looked vibrant, tuxedo rumpled, eyes blazing with mischief. Scribbled in pen across the bottom edge were his words: we build tomorrow because yesterday is already crowded. She traced the handwriting with a fingertip. I hope I am making you proud, uncle. Her phone buzzed. Malik's FaceTime. She answered, his paint-splattered grin filling the screen. Geneva looks good on you, Queen Quantum, he said. Day 1 of empire building nearly done. How goes the mural? He flipped the camera to reveal a half-finished wall where school children painted stars against a cobalt sky. They insisted every star must shine. I told them you would approve. I do, she whispered, heart swelling. Before they ended the call he added, Desmond posted a photo of himself and Kira at a launch party for a crypto drink brand. He looks strained. Layla shrugged. Not my narrative. Malik nodded, the connection deepening in quiet understanding. Focus on altitude, not turbulence. She smiled. Altitude it is. Later that week the board convened for a formal vote on her strategic plan. Petra voiced financial reservations again, arguing shareholder pushback. Layla countered with a 10-year scenario analysis she had built overnight, demonstrating long-tail gains. She included case studies of companies that captured emerging markets early, multiplying valuation. She closed her presentation with a slide of a map of Africa lit by clusters of glowing nodes. Within 5 years, Helion-Tech servers will hum in Lagos, Kinshasa, Dakar. Children will write quantum-secure code on recycled laptops under solar panels. That is not charity. That is the seeding of a new customer class that remembers who opened the gate. The vote passed 8-4. Layla felt her shoulders loosen as if invisible chains had fallen. She had an official mandate, and nothing accelerates innovation like permission combined with stubborn resolve. Spring arrived in Geneva with lilac blossoms and ringing stock tickers. Helion-Tech shares climbed 10% after analysts warned to Project Lumen. The press hailed Layla as a fearless disruptor. She tolerated the attention only because it amplified the mission. Back in Lagos, the air was hotter, thicker, alive with car horns and fried pepper. Layla's private jet landed at Murtala Mohammed Airport under a tangerine sunset. She inhaled the familiar humid scent and felt electric. At the arrival gate, Malik waited holding a cardboard sign that read Welcome, CEO of the People. She laughed so loudly a cluster of travelers turned and smiled. They drove to Yaba, where a converted warehouse stood ready, the first Lumen hub. On the roof, local engineers installed solar panels. Inside, recycled shipping containers had been remodeled into classrooms wired with high-speed quantum-encrypted nodes. Young coders milled about, faces glowing with aspiration. Layla addressed them from a makeshift stage. Some will tell you you are too young, too African, too anything. I was once told I was too emotional for tech. Emotions are fuel. Channel them into code, into solutions. The world needs your fire. Applause thundered. A 16-year-old girl named Zara thrust up her hand. Madam Layla, is it true you wrote your first program on a phone because you had no laptop? Layla grinned. True. It was a very cracked screen. The code compiled anyway. Laughter rippled, but beneath it Layla saw eyes shining with new belief. The next day, she met with Nigeria's Minister of Communications in a conference room overlooking Lagos Lagoon. Bureaucrats shuffled papers, wary of promises. Layla delivered data, projected job creation, educational lift, cybersecurity sovereignty. She asked for reduced import tariffs on quantum hardware in exchange for free training programs for government technicians. The minister leaned back. You offer much. Why such generosity? Layla folded her hands. Because innovation should never be gated by passport. We all inherit the same planet, but opportunity distribution is an algorithm we can rewrite. The minister nodded slowly. By meeting's end, a memorandum of understanding lay signed. Meanwhile, Malik transformed her late aunt's derelict bakery into a coffee-scented incubator named Code and Crumbs. Exposed brick walls sported murals of African women in spacesuits handing out laptops to children. Business classes ran in the mornings, coding labs at night. Layla funded microgrants for attendees. On opening day, crowds spilled onto the sidewalk. Layla cut a ribbon made of braided ribbons from 6 different African countries. An elderly woman in a faded wrapper approached, eyes wet. My granddaughter wants to be an engineer. We thought it was impossible. Now she believes. Layla knelt, taking the woman's hands. Let her keep believing. We will keep building. Malik watched, heart aflame. Later, as they locked up, he handed Layla a small package. Inside lay a silver bangle engraved with a binary code loop. You were always enough. She traced the engraving. Thank you, Malik. For every couch cushion, every pep talk, everything. He hesitated, then spoke softly. I have loved you since our second year at university, when you rewired the power supply in the dorm so my mural lights would not trip the fuse. I knew then that you never accept darkness as the final answer. Layla's breath caught. My heart is still healing. I know, he said, brushing a braid from her cheek. We can start with coffee, not epics. Her smile fluttered like a dawn bird. Coffee is a good algorithm. They stood in comfortable silence until traffic horns reminded them Lagos never truly sleeps. While hope blossomed in Nigeria, storms gathered around Desmond. His DevPay breach escalated into a government investigation. Frozen accounts, subpoenas, investor fury. Kira distanced herself publicly, posting cryptic stories about self-care away from toxic energies. One sweaty afternoon he found himself outside a payday loan office, filling forms his pride once considered beneath him. His phone buzzed, news alerts of Layla's Lagos hub inauguration, #Layla legacy trending with millions of views. Comment sections overflowed with praise. Someone resurfaced the anniversary dinner surveillance captured by a neighbor's security camera, showing Desmond exiting their apartment the night after with suitcase in tow while Layla sat inside crying. The internet judged swiftly. He scrolled the vitriol until a comment stabbed him. Some men throw away diamonds and pick up stones. Shame wrapped around his throat like a tightening tie. He typed an email to Layla, fingers sweaty on cracked screen. Layla. I know apologies can never erase pain. I was foolish, blinded by ego. You invested your heart and resources in me, and I discarded them. I will regret that forever. If you can find it in your soul to forgive, I am at your mercy. Even if we never speak again, know that I wish you light. Desmond. He hovered again, then pressed send. 2 minutes later a system pop-up confirmed. Recipient has blocked notifications from this address. The silence felt colder than the Arctic. Back in Geneva, Layla prepared for the Global Tech Forum keynote. Her communications director worried, your popularity is soaring, but critics say your initiatives are vanity projects. They accuse you of weaponizing philanthropy for brand clout. Layla adjusted her earpiece. Critics are free beta testers for my resolve. Let them file bug reports. I will keep shipping updates. On stage she opened with no slides, no teleprompter. True disruption is not inventing new tools, it is dismantling old barriers. Imagine quantum encryption encoded in dialects spoken by fishermen on the Niger Delta, by shepherds in the Andes. Imagine cyber attackers sweating because a teenage girl in Nairobi just patched a vulnerability before breakfast. That is why we are here. She ended with a quote from Frederick, tomorrow's skyscrapers are built from today's side hustles. The hall erupted in applause. Investors queued backstage, offering partnerships. She answered politely, handing each a data packet on Lumen criteria, social impact first, profit second. Some balked. Others signed term sheets on the spot. Outside, a reporter asked, will you slow down before you burn out? Layla smiled. I do not burn out. I evolve. Desmond's unraveling accelerated like an unchecked loop. Investigators froze his remaining assets. DevPay's code repository was revealed to contain plagiarized modules, ironically, lifted from Layla's open-source snippets. A class-action lawsuit brewed among defrauded users. One humid night he sat in the bare apartment he now rented, ceiling fan clacking, phone battery at 2%. He Googled his own name. The first page displayed headlines. DevPay founder faces fraud probe, ex-husband of quantum queen spirals. In the related images section, paparazzi captured him leaving a nightclub alone, eyes red, shirt wrinkled. He tossed the phone onto the mattress and buried his face in his hands. His life once felt like a rocket. Now it was debris scattering in atmosphere. Down the street, voices cheered from a bar showing Layla's keynote replay. He heard her laugh carry through the open window. It sounded like distant church bells, both beautiful and unreachable. In Geneva Layla entered the marketing suite where her social team monitored #Layla legacy metrics. Charts arced skyward. Your Accra Gala speech hit 12 million views in 24 hours, said Anika, head of digital. Most reposted segment? You telling Desmond too late? Layla sighed. I do not want my story framed by a man's mistake. Anika shrugged apologetically. The internet loves simple villains. We keep steering focus to project Lumen, but algorithms chase drama. Layla pondered. Then let us feed them brighter drama. Highlight mentee stories. Make Zara's scholarship video our hero content. Anika beamed. On it. The Accra Gala arrived, a fundraiser for Lumen Ghana. Gold lanterns hung from baobab branches, high-life music floated over manicured lawns, celebrities in Kent fusion attire strolled. Layla wore an emerald gown cut like a waterfall, Ankara accents tracing the collar. Malik escorted her, tuxedo collar hand-painted with constellations. Midway through speeches, a small commotion stirred near the entrance. Desmond, clutching a withered bouquet, pushed past security. Cameras pivoted, guests whispered. He approached the dais, eyes frantic. "Layla, please," he pleaded, voice cracking. "I lost everything. Money, reputation. Only thing I cannot bear losing is the chance to say I am sorry." Layla's pulse thudded, but she kept composure. Microphones picked up every breath. She stepped forward. "Desmond," she said, tone steady. "Accountability is the apology your victims need. I am not one of them anymore. I rebuilt. You must rebuild too, but not here, not by hitching onto my platform." He dropped to one knee, bouquet petals falling like wounded butterflies. "Give me guidance. Anything." She inhaled, compassion wrestling caution. Around them, phones recorded, millions would watch. Guidance? She let silence stretch. "Then, start by facing the lawsuits. Pay restitution. Volunteer your skills anonymously. Growth that begs for clout rots within. I learned that the hard way, watching you. Now stand up. Dignity starts there." He rose, tears streaking. Security escorted him out gently. Flashes lit the scene. Layla turned back to the audience. "My apologies for the interruption. Where were we? Ah yes, coding boot camps for rural girls." The crowd erupted in applause tinged with awe. TikTok would loop this for weeks. Backstage, her hands shook slightly. Malik wrapped them in his own. That was mercy wrapped in steel. She squeezed back. Mercy without boundaries is self-harm. He kissed her knuckles, a hush of promise. The gala raised $10 million, double the projection. Desmond, now a meme titled Apology Gatecrasher, became unemployable in tech. He sold his car, then his vintage sneaker collection. Each loss felt like peeling off a layer of his identity. One night he stood on Third Mainland Bridge contemplating the black water below. A phone notification buzzed, a message from his mother. "Son, wherever you are, come home. We love you." The simple unconditionality broke him open. He turned away from the railing and hailed an Okada. The road to redemption, he realized, begins with humility unfilmed. Layla returned to Lagos for the Code and Crumbs quarterly showcase. Young developers presented apps, a drone-based malaria mosquito tracker, a low-bandwidth telemedicine portal, an AI that translated tribal dialects to text. Investors mingled, scribbling checks. Zara, now heading a 20-person youth team, demoed a neural net waste sorting sensor. Layla hugged her. "You make quantum seem small." Zara grinned. "You made us believe we could." Layla felt tears prick. She whispered to Malik, "This is the revenge, creation." He nodded. Best served warm with community. That night, as they walked along the marina, city lights twinkling on the water, Malik stopped. "Layla," coffee evolved into daily laughter. Daily laughter evolved into trust. "I do not want to rush you, but my heart keeps writing your name in murals no matter what wall I paint." Layla's breath fogged in the slight sea breeze. "I used to measure love by how much I could sacrifice. Now I measure it by how much light it lets in. You are light, Malik." He reached for her hand. She let fingers entwine. No fireworks, just a steady glow, like sunrise that promises day without fanfare. In that moment, Layla knew she had crossed the invisible line between survival and joy. A buttery moon hung above Accra's Independence Avenue, casting silver pools onto the marble steps of the National Gallery. Inside, chandeliers glittered like trapped galaxies while violins rehearsed arpeggios. The evening's dress code was Afrofuturist formal, which meant laminated ticket stubs doubled as augmented reality filters that turned guests' Ankara patterns into shifting constellations whenever someone pointed a phone. Layla stood at the top of the grand staircase greeting donors with a calm that belied the storm churning outside. Her emerald gown, spliced with gold circuitry embroidery, had been cut to evoke the flowing binary of Heliontech's quantum compilation logs. Every time she moved, the fabric seemed to ripple with hidden syntax. Beside her, Malik recorded small notes in a leather journal, sketching quick caricatures of attendees and handing them off as ice-breaking gifts. His quiet creativity softened the gala's inevitable stiffness. Guests left the receiving line smiling, pocketing miniature portraits of themselves in superhero poses. At 8:42 the first inkling of trouble surfaced. A security earpiece crackled, and Marcel's brisk whisper reached Layla. Uninvited guest approaching west entrance. Possible high-visibility complication. She knew immediately who it must be. She nodded once, signaling stay on protocol. Then she resumed speaking with a regional telecom executive about rural fiber-optic co-ops. Outside, Desmond paced in the parking court, sweat beading at his temples. The bouquet he clutched, white lilies and baby's breath, trembled. He rehearsed lines under his breath like a student before an exam. Camera crews wandering near the carpet spotted him, recognized him from tabloid headlines, and surged together in predatory choreography. Desmond stepped onto the red carpet anyway, light bulbs firing, microphones thrust forward. Inside, a hush began spreading through the gala a full minute before he arrived, tidal silence rolling across the room as screens and whispers telegraphed his entrance. Violinists faltered. A waiter froze mid-tray. One by one, hundreds of faces pivoted toward the wide bronze doors that now swung open with operatic exaggeration. Desmond crossed the threshold, eyes shiny, steps quick like a man sprinting across hot sand. Security took 2 steps after him but halted when Layla subtly raised her hand. Whatever happened needed witnesses, she decided. Only public closure could cauterize remnants of an old story that tabloids refused to let die. He reached the base of the staircase and looked up at her, she, luminous beneath a halo of chandelier light, he, rumpled in an ill-fitting tuxedo that still carried a dry cleaner tag on the cuff. 100 lenses zoomed, the moment was already sprinting toward the internet. Desmond cleared his throat. Layla Adeyemi, he said, voice quavering yet echoing through the hushed hall. I ruined everything between us. I chose vanity over loyalty, greed over gratitude. Tonight I beg forgiveness in front of the world. He knelt on the lowest step, extending the flowers like a supplicant. The stems shook. His words scattered through the microphone ambience until they reached every balcony corner. Layla did not rush her response. She descended 3 steps, each heel click resonant. Up close she caught the tired glaze in his eyes, the hollowed cheeks. She remembered Dr. Adeyemi's admonition to build bridges, yet she also remembered nights of silent tears on Malik's couch. Mercy, she decided, must never erase memory. Desmond, she said, voice steady enough to pass for tempered steel. Forgiveness happens inside hearts, not on social stages. I forgave you months ago so that my own heart could keep beating. What you ask for now is not forgiveness. You ask for reinstatement, validation, maybe even rescue. Gasps skated across the room. Desmond's mouth trembled. She continued. I did not rebuild my life to spite you. I rebuilt because my purpose outgrew your shadow. Stand up and carry your own story. The world will applaud when your accountability equals your apology. She extended her hand, not to accept the flowers but to help him rise. Cameras flashed in a white storm. He placed the bouquet at her feet, took her hand, and stood. The gesture felt maternal rather than romantic, it ended whatever speculation remained. Marcel guided him gently toward the side exit, shields raised, paparazzi in tow. Layla turned and faced the audience, stepping around the crushed lilies. My apologies for the interruption, she said, reclaiming the microphone a tech assistant offered. As I was saying, tonight we gather not to dramatize endings but to finance beginnings. She launched into statistics about digital gender gaps, about the return on investment when girls gain coding fluency, about quantum encryption's role in safeguarding developing democracies. Her words found traction because they were not bullet points but living fire. She wove the broken bouquet into an impromptu metaphor, discarded petals as wasted talent, fresh buds as unlaunched startups. When she finished, a roar of applause thundered, deeper than earlier courtesy claps. In that roaring she sensed a collective permission. The world was ready to pivot from gossip to growth. The gala tripled its target pledges. International press rebranded the evening as the Lily Speech. Hours later, in the privacy of her suite, she removed her earrings and noticed the time, 3 a.m. She tapped a voice memo, impact checkpoint, 800 mentorship slots funded tonight. Remember to allocate additional budget for mental health resources. She saved the memo and sank into sleep, dreams swirling with quantum dashboards and floating white lilies that morphed into code brackets. The Accra sun had barely stretched above the horizon when Layla met Malik in the hotel atrium, both dressed in travel casual linen. They boarded a propeller plane to Kumasi where murals awaited his touch and she would review a rural data center prototype. During the 60-minute flight they shared a thermos of ginger tea, elbows brushing whenever turbulence jolted the cabin. Since the gala their friendship had settled into a soft orbit whose gravity pulled them closer without rushing descent. They texted sunrise emojis instead of alarms, swapped playlists for late-night strategy sessions. Malik painted thumbnails of her while she coded algorithms that optimized energy usage for his future art residences. Still, they navigated carefully, like dancers feeling the tempo before launching into choreography. On arrival in Kumasi, school children lined the dusty road leading to community school number 12. They clapped homemade percussion instruments, empty soda cans strung together with twine, wooden spoons beating plastic buckets. Their chant rose, "Lumen! Lumen! Welcome!" A teacher explained that some students practiced code on paper because computers were scarce. They drew loops and branch statements in chalk on the floor. Layla knelt beside one quiet girl named Ifiwa who traced a while loop in the dust and looked up shyly. "I will send tablets soon," Layla promised, "but never stop drawing code in your mind. The mind is the fastest processor ever built." Ifiwa's face lit like a lantern at dusk. Malik painted the encounter on a scrap of plywood. Layla crouched, dust swirling around chalk pseudocode, sunbeams slicing through a doorway, Ifiwa's wonder shining. He titled it Processor 1. That night, in a modest guest house where geckos clicked in the rafters, Layla and Malik sat on a balcony watching fireflies. The conversation meandered from dinosaur facts to color theory to what quantum computing might mean for oral storytelling archives. Finally Malik set down his mug. "Layla, I have spent years believing love must be volcanic to be real. Yet this," he gestured between them, "feels like rain carving stone. Quiet, patient, unstoppable." She considered his metaphor, the way rainfall sculpts cliffs over centuries. Volcanoes dazzle then sleep. "Rain endures," she said softly. He reached out, slow enough to invite withdrawal, and tucked a stray braid behind her ear. She closed her eyes and leaned into his palm. No further words were necessary, the night accepted their subtle promise. Weeks turned to months. They returned to Lagos where code and crumbs buzzed like a beehive. Layla, Malik, and Zara led Saturday hack marathons that ended with open MIC nights. Music, poetry, code demos, they blurred into one communal heartbeat. Government officials toured the hub, scribbling notes. International investors FaceTimed to ask how they could clone the model. Layla insisted on local ownership, refusing parachute philanthropy that extracted more than it gave. She created a revenue stream by licensing Helion Tech security toolkits to medium-scale Nigerian firms at fair rates, funneling profit back into scholarships. One humid afternoon, after 12 straight hours refining the neural net waste sorter, Zara collapsed onto a beanbag. "Madam Layla, why does your energy never fail?" Layla laughed, wiping sweat. "I spent years letting someone overlook my spark. Now I feed it good fuel." Zara nodded, thoughtful. "Someday I will do the same for another girl." In the corner, Malik overheard and painted the moment on a large canvas he titled Chain Reaction. Desmond, meanwhile, enrolled in a government-sponsored financial restitution program rather than face jail. He serviced debt by teaching basic coding in a youth detention center. The irony stung, yet each lesson forced him to revisit the fundamentals he once dismissed. For the first time, he found satisfaction not in applause but in watching a troubled teenager debug a "Hello, World" script and smile shyly at the screen. One evening an older woman arrived at the detention center gate. It was Layla's mother, Yejid, carrying a thermos of soup. She had learned of Desmond's situation through local gossip. She found him wiping whiteboard markers from his hands. Their conversation was brief yet seismic. "I came to say I forgive you for hurting my daughter," she told him gently. "You were lost. Stay found." The soup smelled of ginger and goat meat. Desmond cried quietly when she left, the warmth of the thermos burning his palms. Some bridges, he realized, had been gifted to him unearned. He vowed to pay toll in service for the rest of his life. Zanzibar in late September is a symphony of turquoise water, clove-spiced air, and sunsets that smear mango and lavender across the sky. Layla and Malik chose the remote village of Matemwe for their ceremony precisely because paparazzi could not justify the boat ride past seaweed farms to reach it. 40 guests, friends, family, Lumen scholars, and a scattering of Helion Tech colleagues, gathered barefoot on the white sand. Instead of pews there were cola-nut brown woven mats. Instead of an aisle there was a driftwood walkway lined with solar lanterns that Malik and Zara built from recycled glass. Layla wore a backless silk dress dyed a deep indigo that shifted to midnight blue toward the hem, reminiscent of open ocean at dusk. A thin gold circlet, etched with binary code for hope, rested across her forehead. Malik's suit was woven by Maasai artisans, crimson accented with turquoise beadwork at the lapels. Around his wrist he wore the binary bangle Layla gifted him in return for his earlier bracelet. The officiant, an elderly Swahili librarian named Mwalimu Juma, opened the ceremony by reading passages from the Lamu Chronicle, a medieval Swahili epic about traders who built bridges between cultures through stories and spice. Layla felt the words weave invisible threads linking her Lagos childhood, Geneva boardrooms, and every village hub her teams had launched. During vows Malik spoke first. Layla, I once believed art alone healed me, yet your courage painted hues my palette never carried. From this day, my art exists to echo your ferocity and shield your tenderness. Layla replied, Malik, you were the couch when storm winds exiled me. Now you are the sail that catches those winds and turns exile into voyage. I promise to seek your perspective when mine feels narrow and to protect the quiet space where both our dreams can breathe. Instead of exchanging rings immediately, they exchanged tools symbolic of their trades. Malik handed her a paintbrush engraved with her initials. Layla gave him a titanium flash drive containing the latest Helium-Tech encryption engine, personalized so only his retinal signature could open it. After the officiant pronounced them partners in life and mission, Zara triggered a line of drones that rose from behind rock outcrops, unfurling a banner reading code Love Create. The drones synchronized into swirling patterns that spelled yes, in both binary and Swahili Morse code. At dusk the reception unfolded beneath a canopy strung with glass orbs containing fireflies. Guests feasted on octopus curry and pineapple pilau. A local Taarab band blended traditional rhythms with synth loops generated by a Lumen Scholar's AI keyboard. Layla's mother kissed Malik's forehead during the mother-child dance, and the old professor from Geneva attempted the shaku-shaku while reporters for once were nowhere in sight. Later, away from the music, Layla and Malik waded ankle-deep into the warm Indian Ocean. The sky above mirrored scattered lanterns from anchored fishing boats, turning the water into a starfield. Layla sighed contentedly. Malik touched her cheek. Our foundation needs a name. She looked toward the horizon. Let us call it Tidal Labs. The tide never stops arriving and departing, and it always returns with stories and treasures. He kissed her under the watchful eyes of constellations older than language. When they returned to Nigeria, they launched Tidal Labs with a dual headquarters, a reclaimed cocoa warehouse in Lagos Island and a floating cowork space moored off the coast of Lamu using repurposed shipping containers. The lab funded microventures such as solar-powered cold storage for fishermen in Senegal and low-cost Braille readers designed by two blind Kenyan siblings. Global media attempted to brand Layla a billionaire philanthropist, but she pushed back gently in interviews. Philanthropy implies excess trickling down. We practice ecosystems rising together. At Helium-Tech, Petra the finance chief served as cautious ally. Quarterly reports showed revenue dip from pricing changes but brand equity index jumped 32%. Analyst commentary shifted from skeptical to cautiously bullish. During a board session, Kwame the research director presented preliminary designs for a quantum architecture named Ubuntu that prioritized distributed nodes over centralized clusters, inspired by African communal frameworks. Layla approved immediate prototyping, quoting a Yoruba proverb, "A river that forgets its source dries." 18 months after her first board meeting, Layla returned to Lagos to cut the ribbon on the Frederick Adeyemi Innovation Academy. The campus gleamed where an abandoned textile mill once loomed. A central hub, designed by Malik in the shape of an unfolded origami butterfly, housed classrooms, maker spaces, and a quantum cloud interface station. Solar arrays on the roof doubled as shade canopies, rainwater harvesting tanks lined the courtyard. The inauguration ceremony streamed live to 43 countries. Layla walked the stage beside Zara, now program coordinator at only 20 years old. Zara introduced a cohort of teenagers developing a language preservation app that converted endangered tribal stories into interactive holograms. When the headsets projected ancestral elders telling folktales in living color, dignitaries gasped, some wiping tears. Layla addressed the assembly. Legacy is not marble statues of founders. Legacy is recursive function, each generation feeding the next input of courage, receiving output of progress. She invited a dozen women to join her on stage, graduates of Code and Crumbs who now ran their own ventures. They stood shoulder to shoulder, representing agriculture tech, climate science, gaming development, digital fashion, and rural broadband. Together they pressed a glowing button that pulsed the Academy's logo across the giant screen behind them, signaling official launch. Somewhere in a rented room 20 kilometers away, Desmond watched on a cracked phone he had promised himself to replace only after his restitution payments finished. He sat cross-legged on the tile floor, flanked by notebooks where he drafted lesson plans. As Layla spoke of recursion and generation, Tears blurred his vision, but not from regret alone. There was also awe, maybe even pride, that someone he once wounded had built something luminescent from the fracture. He typed a text he knew would never reach her phone. "Your light guided me back to myself. I am grateful from afar." Then he deleted it, content with silent gratitude. Weeks later, Layla walked through the academy's garden at dawn. Dew beaded on hibiscus petals, cicadas hummed. Malik joined her carrying 2 mugs of black coffee sweetened with coconut sugar. They sat on a stone bench shaped like an infinity symbol. She told him about a dream where children in Antarctica coded quantum sequences using aurora light as keyboard strokes. He answered by sketching the dream in her palm with the tip of his finger. In the quiet, distant laughter of early rising students drifted on the breeze. "You know," he mused, "when we die the only true headstone will be how many minds we kept curious." Layla rested her head on his shoulder. "Then let curiosity be our eternity." A group of students jogging the perimeter path waved and shouted, "Morning, founders." Layla and Malik waved back, their hands joined. Above them, the academy's flag fluttered, Helianteca's logo interwoven with a stylized baobab tree whose roots formed binary digits. The sun cleared the horizon, and golden light spilled across the courtyard like freshly coded potential. Years later scholars would chronicle the technological renaissance that swept across parts of Africa and beyond, tracing its DNA back to one woman's heartbreak-turned blueprint. Not every algorithm she wrote survived, not every initiative thrived, but the cultural shift toward inclusive innovation proved irreversible. A little girl named Ifewa, who once drew loops in dust, eventually patented a low-cost quantum sensor that detected pathogens in drinking water. She credited a sentence Layla uttered on that first visit: "The mind is the fastest processor ever built." Desmond eventually earned quiet respect as director of the same youth coding program where he had once taught as penance. He never remarried, but he reconciled with humility and found joy in anonymity. Layla and Malik's Tidal Labs spun off dozens of founder couples who proved that love and work can co-author symphonies when ego stays silent. Their own love story, painted in murals from Rio favelas to Jakarta rooftops, reminded millions that partnership is not completion but amplification. And whenever a journalist asked Layla the secret to vengeance so graceful it looked like grace, she smiled and answered with 4 words: "Success tells the story." Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment your thoughts and share our channel with your friends. See you in the next story. From your favorite stories.